Hey there, Hive Tyrant 424 here, welcoming you to my tutorial series for Automation Empire. The objective of this game is to offload resources you harvest on a planet and use the money you make to build bigger and better systems. Efficiency is the key to your success, and you unlock better technology through research points to make your system more efficient. So you've unlocked the refiners, step conveyors, and claw trains, but now you're not sure how they work or the best way to use them. Well, stick around and I'll show you how I do it. In order to unlock claw trains, claw gates, and truck loading stations, you're going to need a lot of research points from both refined coal and iron. So that's what I'm doing here. Now remember, you have to build research stations outdoors. They're too big to fit inside a factory, which is unfortunate because that would make things a lot easier. I have to upgrade my refining system in order to get my research facilities where I need them, so I'm going to do that and build an iron refinery. I haven't done that yet, but we need the refined iron, so that's what I'm going to do. Alright, here's my iron refinery, and I have unlocked the claw trains. Now, I noticed that before I go any further with this, I've started to build claw trains, but I noticed I've got a lot of gaps in empty crates moving down to the end of my unload stations. This is bad for two reasons. Number one, claw trains won't pick up empty crates, so every empty crate that's at the end of your unload line at your pickup points is going to slow down your truck loading. Empty crates at the end of a refinery system also means that your refinery isn't getting enough ore to keep it busy. So first I'm going to solve the empty crate problem, and then I'll tackle the lack of raw ore to import more iron into the refinery so that I'm not having as many empty crates. Later on in the game, once I've started unlocking better technologies, I'll actually build my refineries on site at the resource nodes because I need the space here by my loading area to build my combiner factories. The unload stations will, and I think the load stations do it too, any empty crate that reaches the end of an unload line will automatically be destroyed. And I think the same goes for the load stations, but I won't swear to that. Alright, so there we go. We've fixed the empty crates getting to the end of my unload lines, so now we can get some claw trains going. Yeah, I'm still not getting enough ore refined, so there we go. We're going to unlock the claw train gates, and I'm going to show you really quickly how these work and where you can get the most benefit from them. The arrow on the gate shows which direction a train needs to be going for the gate to apply the rules that you give it. Now what that means is if it's facing the direction that your train is flowing in, if the arrow is pointing in that direction, that means that when you apply the rules, that's how the gate will behave. So I'm going to set one up here. And you can see that the arrow on the gate can be changed with the reverse direction arrow. There's a left and right arrow in the bottom left part of the gate's window. And when you place the gate, it's turned off by default. I usually leave that off until I've set it up so it doesn't mess up my timing. You'll notice that the arrow was red on the gate itself. Now in this line, I don't want my claws to leave the factory unless the train is full with 12 crates. So I'm setting the minimum crates to 12. Then I click the gray button to turn that rule on. You see that white border around the button? That is actually a button. You have to click that button in order to activate that rule. The same with the never allow or the maximum crates. So I turn that gate on, and now I'm going to set another gate at the other end of the train and set that to never allow. Then I'll turn that on. Now what that's going to do is anytime the train reaches that gate, it's going to get turned back no matter what. Because I never want my I never want my claw trains going counterclockwise to my relay there. I always want them going clockwise on this train. So now you can see that the train, when it leaves the refinery, if it has less than 12 crates, then the gate will send it back into the factory. And when it reaches the other gate, which is set to never allow, it gets turned back again. So it'll bounce back and forth between those two gates until it has 12 crates, and then it can pass. That's a great way to keep long trains from making a trip with no crates or only a few crates. When you use the claw gates in that way, though, you have to make sure you leave enough room for the entire train to pass your pickup point in the refinery in both directions, which is what I've done. Now, to get the iron into my refinery, I've gone out and I have started mining on 2 more resource node sections or groups. And the trouble is that I've discovered that by the time the train leaves or gets to the last mining rig in that part of the system, it's already full. So I'm not picking up the ore from the last rig, possibly even the last 2 rigs. And by the time it gets back to the refinery, drops it off, and then comes all the way back, the refinery has used up all of that raw ore. So what I'm doing is I'm going to build a relay here. Whenever I can, I try to have just a single train going from my resource nodes to my refineries. But when you do run into that problem where you're mining more than you're able to bring into your refinery because of the long distances that you have to cover, the relays will allow you to have fewer gaps. So I'm going to maximize the number of cars on that rail. And then I'm going to build another rail here. So what's going to happen is the mining cars will pick up the resources for the iron from the 2 nodes that I've got, or the 2 mining nodes that I have set up out there. I think it's about 10 rigs in total. And it will bring the ore, drop it off in this large container, and then I'll have another car or another mine car train that's also going to be maximum cars, 16 cars. And it'll pick the ore up at this relay station, and it has a shorter trip to get back to the refinery to drop off. And that will allow my system to have iron ore in it more often and not run out in between trips. Also, you got to remember here that mine cars travel faster on highway rails, which are elevated to at least level 2. So long distance trains should always be up in the air. It's not that much faster to begin with, but once you've spent the research points to get the faster highway cart speeds, you won't have to rebuild all your mining trains if you spend the time and the money now to do it. So that's what I do. All right, now I've finally unlocked the truck loading stations for the claw trains, and this is a pretty big game changer and usually requires at least some of my refineries and claw systems to be demolished and rebuilt. So I pause the game. I don't want to pay for power that I'm not producing anything with. And when I build my truck loading systems for claw trains, I'll either use 1 train to load 1 truck or 2. I rarely will use a single claw train to try and load 3 trucks with that 1 train, because when you first unlock claw trains, you only get 12 claws. Until you spend the research to add more claws, I think the maximum is 22 claw trains on a single line. You're going to have a lot of gaps in your loading system if you try and load 3 trucks. So you'll have fewer trucks leaving with ore. Now, to unlock combiners and remote connectors, you need to have a really good offload system. So it's best to set yourself up for them right off the bat. If the truck station is close to the refinery, like this first one here, what I'll end up doing is I was going to set up a relay, and then I decided, I think I'm just going to load it right off the factory line because it is so close. So I'm just going to get rid of all of those. Careful not to delete my road, because that's just annoying. And then I'm just going to connect this guy directly to the factory. There we go. Now, because I'm only loading a single truck with that train, I only need 6 claws on that track. Now, you would think, instinctively, you would think that the shortest distance is the most efficient and the best, but that's not necessarily the case. I try, whenever I can, I try to have my last claw passing the pickup point before the first claw gets to the drop-off point. Now, the reason I do that is because every time a claw reaches a pickup or drop, if there's a crate that needs to be picked up or dropped, the train stops, if only for that second to pick up and drop. So if you have a train that's picking up and then it'll move forward a half space and then you've got another claw at the other end of the train dropping, you're actually slowing down your delivery system a lot. It's a significant loss. Mine car tracks, by the way, they behave in the same way. Whenever I can, and I can't always avoid it, but whenever I can, I will have the entire train load and then the entire train unload. I very rarely, if I can avoid it at all, I very rarely have load and unload in the same space. I don't like that at all. It's too inefficient. So I'll load my trucks directly from the factory if they're close to the factory or the refinery, and then my trucks start to get further away, I'll start building relays like these. So I'll have one claw train that will pick up 12 crates and take them out and drop them off at another unload line, and then I'll have a separate claw train connected to the truck loading station, and that will pick up the crates to load the trucks. Now, what that does is that allows me to clear the factory, clear the refinery lines faster, which will allow other claw trains to pick up more resources if I have multiple lines picking up from the same unload line. And it's a shorter distance for the loaded claw trains to travel to get to the trucks and drop off their payload to the trucks. And then the claw trains can fill up while the truck is pulling out and the next one is pulling in. So it ends up being a lot faster that way. I also try and make sure that I split my productivity between my iron and my coal refineries so that I'm not, they both weigh the same. Refined iron and refined coal are both the same weight. So what I'm after here is the productivity and the weight shipping. So I'll split my claw trains and my trucks between the two resources as evenly as I can. Now, obviously, if my iron refinery, because it's built slightly different, if it's being fed more iron ore, if it can produce more loaded crates than the coal refinery can, then I'll have more claw trains loading more trucks with iron than coal. But obviously, the ultimate goal would be to have no surplus of either resource. We want to offload as much as possible here. So here's another relay that I've built. And this will get this one single truck loaded. So again, I'm only going to need 6 claws on this train. Just like that. One good thing to note, by the way, when you're building these claw systems, oh yeah, I guess I should have some materials being funneled underneath the pickups for the claws to actually get on the truck, shouldn't I? You always forget something. What I was going to say is, once I've got my system built and I unpause it, the first thing I look for is, are there any trucks that aren't being loaded? Are there any lines, claw train lines, that are not picking up crates? Because when you got this many claw trains and this intricate of a system going and everything all moving around and dancing and you're building as you're going like I do, very often what I find is I'll forget to put down a pickup point or a drop-off point. And so my trains are running around, but they're not actually doing anything. And had I actually unpaused the game before I realized that my iron refinery had not, my delivery system was dead right at the start, then I would have gone and done what I'm doing right now. I just happened to notice it before I unpaused and was like, why aren't I getting any resources out? So that's what I'm going to do here. And for the time being, I'm going to have to tweak my whole system and add and remove, refiners and, all that. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get things moving so that I can see where I have gaps. So I find, I'm not, maybe you're better at planning than I am, but I find most of the time when I'm building like this that If I try and get too intricate too quickly and all at once, what I find is that I have a major flaw somewhere in my system and I have to undo everything I just did. So I'll build small chunks of my system like that. Then I'll activate it and see what I'm missing. So that line has 2 pickups and the drop. So I know that one is good. I'll get on this one and set the drop there. And now here, set the drop right there. Now that's going to feed those 3 lines, which will feed the 3 loading systems I've got for iron. Oh yeah, I'm going to set the pickups for the trains to pick up inside the refinery and bring them outside. And we'll set that pickup there and another pickup for that loading station there. And then you don't have to set the drop locations for the actual trucks. That's already done. You can see all the drop pads are on the truck relay or truck delivery stations. And nope, forgot to put a pickup on the coal here. All you have to do is look in your system, on your delivery system, look for lines that are loaded with crates. If you have crates sitting there idly, there's usually a reason. In this particular case, it was because I forgot to put a pickup station on the coal. Okay, that's working. That one doesn't have a pickup spot, so there we go. And those 2 are picking up. Now that one refinery line isn't making a lot of coal. I'll have to work on that. But that's how I use the claw trains, you guys. Gates and truck loading stations, game changers. Once my system has had time to break in, I'll see where I have the gaps, and I'll tweak the system as much as I can to get as many crates offloaded as I can. If I see my relays holding on to too many crates, I'll add another road with a few more pit stops and feed those with the surplus crates until my productivity is maximized and I reach my next tech goals. I really appreciate you watching. Hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button down below. I welcome comments and suggestions. I don't know everything about this game and I'm constantly learning, so I'm happy to discuss your ideas. If you'd like to be notified about the next video when I upload it, go ahead and hit that subscribe button as well. I'll see you in the next video where we're going to unlock connectors and the combiners. Thanks so much for watching.